Hello, my name is Shannon and welcome back. This is Made by Boo. I am recording from a little bit outside of Boise, Idaho, and I have quite a little bit of variation today compared to usual. So I have 4 finished objects, an abandoned object, and 2 works in progress, and I have a little variation. Most of the time I just have knitting. Usually if I get outside of knitting, it is just like crochet. But today I also have some cross stitch and some sewing. So I'm going to dive right into it with my finished objects. The first one I have is a cross stitch, and it is just a teeny tiny little guy. I know it's probably not going to focus in on this, but he is just a teeny tiny little pumpkin. He's got a tiny smile, very pastel colors. He was Kawaii Cross Stitch Pumpkin in a Matchbox, and it's this cute little thing. The whole thing came in that. I've got the pattern left in here. I'll probably keep the little pattern, but probably not the Matchbox. This actually came in a Yarnable for October last year, and I just now got around to making it. Last year it took me just a little bit too long to make it, and at that point it was kind of like, well, now I can't because we're past. But this little guy is probably going to be hung up next to my desk at work. No fancy framing or anything. I would probably just stick a push pin in him on my little bulletin board so that he is there to make me smile. So that is my first finished object. Teeny tiny little cross stitch, but I do have 2 different cross stitches that I've been working on. One that I haven't really worked on in at least 6 months, and another one that I started probably close to 2 years ago. It's never been shown on here, so it's been a while. So I'm hoping that little one will kind of get me back into it, but I mean, when I'm doing cross stitch, I have to have my pattern, my threads, my everything. It's not quite as portable of a project. But a very portable project is these finished socks. So these we're using Hand-Dyed Happy Yarn Club from So Happy Jane. It doesn't say what month this was from. I know it was from the summer, but the color was Mountain Sunrise. And these were part of... Wow, my brain just totally shorted out. Sorry. Part of the birthday presents requested from my 7-year-old. Her birthday is, well, 6 turning 7. Her birthday is this month, and she really wanted me to make her a short pair of purple hand knit socks. I've never hand knit her socks before. I'm not quite sure why she wants me to. She almost never keeps socks on, so I'm glad she wanted short ones so that at least if she doesn't enjoy wearing them, it wasn't like 100 stitches tall and months of work. Well, probably at least a month of work. I'm hoping she'll like them as the weather changes. She may really like having these warmer socks, but not all of my children actually like wearing hand knit socks, so we'll see if she actually likes them. But they were just a simple 1x1 rib, heel flap and gusset, vanilla sock pattern. Nothing really exciting about them, just a pretty color. They do still need to be blocked, but I didn't want them to be wet when I was showing, so I will probably block as soon as I'm done filming. And I will block them with my next finished object. So this is using yarn from the Woolly Dragon, and it is the color Bear and a Studebaker. They have really small tags, it seems like, from the Woolly Dragon, but I kind of like it because why waste extra paper on something if you don't need to? So these ones were DK weight socks, and it is using the pattern Vanilla is the New Black. So instead of just making basic vanilla socks, these have, I believe in the pattern it's called a strong heel, but it has just a nice little knit and purl detail, and then a gusset at the bottom of it. It's very, very cool. Works up pretty easy. I don't do a lot of DK weight socks. I want to do a few more for myself for the winter, but I usually do fingering weight. So I wasn't quite sure what size. I think I could have gone a size down based on how loose they are, They're not like uncomfortably loose for me. I tend to like my hand knit socks to be just a little bit less fitted. I know that's a little bit odd, but when like, if they have the negative ease, they're just not as comfortable to me. I like them to fit. So I probably could have gone down one more size and had them still not had a bunch of negative ease. And I may, when I do another pair of DK weight socks, because I do have 2 more DK weight yarns and at least one other yarn that I'm thinking of doubling up to do DK weight socks instead of fingering weight. I was not sure when I started the second sock if I was going to have enough. Like, I weighed how much yarn I had left, and it was over 50 grams. So I figured I had enough. It was like 56 grams. Something like that. But then when I weighed the first socks, it was also over 50 grams, and I was all the way down to the wire. Not sure if I would make it. I finished with this much left. So not a lot. And I think if I had gone down one more size, that would have helped with that, and then they still would have fit. So if I use this pattern again, I will size down by 1. I know I use slightly larger needles on fingering weight yarn than most people do, but I don't go up as much in DK weight socks as I think other people would, as far as like a difference between their fingering weight socks and their DK weight socks. Anyway, so another finished pair of socks. The vanilla is the new black pattern with the yarn Bear in a Studebaker from the Woolly Dragon. I know I am talking very, very fast through all of these. I only have one more finished object, and then we can get into the next ones. I'm mostly talking fast because they're all fairly simple projects. Like, there's not a lot to say about a vanilla pair of socks that's finished for my child. There's not a lot to say about a tiny cross-stitch pumpkin. They're very, very cute, and I'm happy to have finished it, but I feel like I just end up going through it quickly because it's more of a, hey, look at what I did. And the next project is very similar. So this is also for my daughter for her birthday. She asked me to make her a blanket. We were at Craft Warehouse and she picked out the fabric. I did not show it when I showed all of the stuff I got from Craft Warehouse that time because it's fuzzy blanket material. So one side, it's almost like a minky, but like not the bubble up minky. And she's got ladybugs, and then the other side is a much fuzzier red, and it's kind of like what you'd use for making a stuffed animal. So it is a super soft blanket. She's very excited about it, keeps eyeballing it, asking me when I'm going to wrap it up, and it's like, well, it's for your birthday. Just because you know it's for your birthday doesn't mean that it's not for your birthday. So we may or may not let her have it early. We'll see. But it is basically just, I got 1.5 yards of each, laid them both down to line them up, pinned the crud out of them because it's super slippery fabric. And this fuzzy stuff, it sheds everywhere. It was absolute carnage on my floor. Then I just sewed around the outside, flipped it the other way around, pinned the crud out of it again, sewed around the outside again. Super, super simple. And now my older two are kind of looking at it, I'm not sure either of them actually want one, but they both love how soft it is. It's definitely something that, while it's kind of a pain to work with this slippery and messy of a fabric, I think it would make a great baby blanket or something like that. Like, it is just so soft. There's a part of me that wants to go down and pick out some fabric for me. They had some cute ones that had like Highland cows, and then it was paired with a nice long, almost Highland cow fur type blanket fabric. And it would be so cute, but I also know I don't need it. I have a lot of blanket. I have blanket projects. I have sweaters. Like, I don't need another blanket just because it's soft and cute, but it's really tempting. So those are all of my finished objects. I know I went through all of them very quickly, but again, they're all fairly simple projects. I left my other projects out of reach, as I usually do. So let me grab those, and then we will get into my abandoned project and everything that came after that. All right, so in my works of progress, I kind of have 2.5 One I am calling my abandoned project because I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it, but I don't think I'm going to finish it as is. So this abandoned project is a sock. I know, big shocker, I do a lot of socks. So it is all still connected, well, mostly still connected. And the yarns that I am using, this brown is Boss Kitty in the color Snuffy. It's what was left after doing some yarn, or my Clue socks. There we go. Of course, some yarn. I may be picking a really bad speaking day to film. I am sorry. I hope this is not that chaotic sounding. So this is Boss Kitty in the color Snuffy. And that was the contrast color I selected to go with this Knitted Wit yarn in the color Great Pumpkin. And hopefully you can kind of see it inside the Yarn Cozy. I got this at Craft Warehouse and I was really excited about it, and I wanted to make this my next pair of socks because it's kind of Halloween but also very fall, and I'm excited about the change in the weather, all of that, and I was really excited about these socks. So I started working on them. I got the cuff. I was going to do brown cuff, maybe heel, probably heel, maybe toe. And then I started working on the leg. And I just did not like the way it was working up. So it's got these little like micro stripes of the dark brown, black, and it's got kind of patches of this darker orange. But the more I did it, like it was not striping all the way around. It was really just one side, one side. And when I first noticed it, it was like, okay, well, I mean, you can see how here it seems like it's starting to scoot around a little bit. So it's like, okay, let's just keep going. It will spiral. Hand knit socks, like these hand dyed yarns, spiral eventually. It'll get there. But I think about 15, 20 rows in, and it's not spiraling. And I just was not liking it, and so I decided to put it in timeout. In the time it's been in timeout, I'm filming on a Saturday. I put this in timeout on Wednesday. So it hasn't been very long, but since then, I've kind of decided that I think what I'm going to end up doing is pulling this sock out. I didn't want to make a rash decision because maybe it would grow on me, but I decided I think I'm going to pull it out and then rewind it and pull from the inside and the outside and do a DK weight sock with it. That way, if I'm pulling from the inside and the outside, I will get hopefully a little bit more mixing of the colors. So instead of pooling on one side, they'll kind of go all over the place. But I'm not even pulling it out yet. That's just kind of my current thought process on it. So this is one that will probably come back. But again, it's in timeout. All I know for sure is I'm not going to finish it as it is. I just don't like the way the stripes were going. And I think if I do it as a DK weight, it will work a way I will like better. But I don't want to pull it out just as a rash decision. So it is going in timeout while I finish deciding if I like that new plan. If I do that, I may or may not continue to use the Snuffy with it because I now have this chunk that was cut off. I mean, I could always try to save that and use it for a different yarn, or I could use this and this to do the DK weight cuffs. I don't know what I'll do. So this is my abandoned project. It will be in timeout. Theoretically, you will see it again, but it may or may not be anytime soon because it is very fall feeling colors. If I don't get around to it while I'm still feeling like I want to knit fall colors, then we'll see. But I mean, knitting fall colors will definitely feel that way through the end of November, so I may feel like bringing it back. Who knows? So when I abandoned that project on Wednesday, that had been my plan for sock knitting for my traveling socks. I usually have a pair of socks that I keep in my car and I will knit before work. Sometimes I'll knit on a lunch break, just kind of when I have little bits of time. I usually take that pair of socks to my child's gymnastics class. Things like that where it's just over 2 or 3 weeks, I get a pair of socks done with just that little bit at a time. Well, those were going to be my socks that filled that time. I no longer had a project that I could easily fit into that kind of knitting, and I had a couple more days in the week. I needed something. So I just reached in my stash, and I had recently looked at several different fall type yarns, and this one was just kind of on the top. I wound it up really quick, and I was very happy that I went with it. So this is from Blue Barn Fiber, and it is in the color September Aspens. I only recently ordered this one, so I did show it on here within the last month or so. And I was very glad that I did have this, because I actually wound this up on Thursday, so I haven't been working on these socks for very long. I did have something that I could bring to work on Thursday, and then I wound this up on Thursday night because I wasn't sure that what I had left was going to be enough for Friday, and it wasn't. So Thursday night, I wound this up and cast on just a couple of rows. So you can kind of see how it's got the white with the little flecks of black, which is definitely what you would see on an aspen tree trunk, and then these bright oranges that kind of give you that idea of the aspen leaves turning. I had vaguely thought about, for this one, maybe switching up and doing pearls whenever the orange comes up, and I figured I would decide once I was done doing the cuff. I think I have maybe one more row on the cuff before I am done, and I don't think I'm going to bother doing that, because I think the amount of texture I will get just making all the orange pearls will not necessarily be worth the effort. But it is doing a little bit more of what I expected the other one to do. I'm getting just these kind of little micro stripes that are spiraling. I know some people don't like that spiraling in hand-dyed yarns. I actually kind of like it. I feel like it makes the color even when you have colors with variation like this in its own way. Sometimes, yes, you do get pooling, especially around like the heel and the gusset and all of that, but it never really bothers me. So I'm probably just going to keep going on these as vanilla socks, and then I have another yarn that I may choose to do after these. We know how I do get distracted by shiny objects. So the abandoned project may or may not come back up after that. We shall have to kind of see how I'm feeling on that one. But I am very happy that I have that one. And then this, I guess I kind of forgot, this is also a little bit of a finished object. I did make a project bag. I just had this fabric with potatoes on it. I live in Idaho. It seemed like it'd be fun to make a tiny project bag. And there's nothing really fancy about it. I just kind of made a tote bag with a zipper and then folded up the bottoms to make it a box bottom. Super simple one. I didn't really follow a pattern. I just kind of guessed along the way because I've made bags like this before. And then I put a little loop on the side in case I ever wanted to add a handle. I could make one up and then just loop it on that. But for right now, it's just a simple bag. So the last work in project I have, the last work in progress I have is my twisted t-shirt. This is a pattern by the Little Wolf Knits, and I am using hand-dyed Happy Yarn Club yarn from So Happy Jane. Two of the colors are from the same month. It was 1 month this summer. I don't remember what month it was, but they were both the color Road Trip, and then the last one was a color 100 Acre Woods. I will point out which one is 100 Acre Woods as I pull it out, and of course it is inside out. Whenever I'm working on stuff in the round, it does tend to be inside out at least half the time, but I don't know exactly why I do that. So the color, this slightly darker teal right here is the 100 Acre Woods, and then this and this are the colors Road Trip. So when we last saw it, this is the front. I had just split for the sleeves. Sorry, it's a little bunched up. So I was right here about 3 stripes up where this little fox was. And then I also did the ribbing on the sleeves. Doing the ribbing on the sleeves, I did have to do my first ever sewn bind off. I thought about just not doing it, but I figured there's a tutorial to do the twisted sewn bind off. I've never done a sewn bind off, but it's supposed to make it nice and stretchy, and I don't want to go to all this effort doing a knitted fingering weight shirt and not bother putting in that little bit of effort to make the sleeves a little more comfortable. So I got 3 stripes down and the sleeves done in the last 2 weeks. I measured the length of one of my most comfortable t-shirts. I know I tend to be a little bit longer in the torso. This pattern calls for a cropped shirt. I am not planning on making a cropped shirt. So I measured one of my most comfortable t-shirts that I wear to work. It's long enough, I work all day, and I don't feel like my shirt is uncomfortable. And I think I'm going to need to do what would technically be 14 stripes, so 7 repeats, and then the rib to make it the length I want. I should theoretically have plenty. We shall see. Hopefully I do. If it is a little bit cropped, that's probably fine, but it depends on how much is a little bit cropped. I'm going to get very disappointed if I get all the way to the bottom and I cannot make it the right length. But the 100 Acre Wood color did have a little bit extra for doing short rows at the top used. So theoretically, if I need to, in my last stripe, I could probably add a few extra rounds, and it may or may not look a little strange. We'll see if it does, but I figure I could probably add up to an extra 5 to 10 rounds of the last color at the bottom, and it would look like a feature. So if I'm a little bit worried about how much I'm running out, as long as I can do extra of this color at the bottom, and then I could probably do the same with the ribbing of do an extra 5 to 10 rounds compared to the sleeves without it looking that weird. But of course, I just don't want it to look disproportionate. So hopefully when I get to the end, it will not look disproportionate. It will look proportionate. Yeah. All right, so the last that I have is just a little bit of acquired items. I really don't have a lot, and hopefully most of you have already seen this. If you get it, I do have my Yarnable for the month of September. We are now halfway through the month, so I am guessing most of you who would be getting Yarnable already have your Yarnable. So the theme for this month was, let me make sure I get it right. That is not it. Sorry. Is Happily Ever After. So it is using the concept of apples to go with. So the extras that we got were an apple cinnamon quick mug muffin mix. I first saw this in there and my thought was, oh man, I'm not going to be able to eat that because I can't eat gluten. And then it did say at the bottom, it is gluten-free. It's also keto-friendly, so I'm not always a huge fan of things that are keto-friendly, but you never know. This could be really, really good, and I'm definitely excited to try it. It has been sitting in my house for honestly getting close to 2 weeks, so I'm excited to finally be able to try this. The other item that came in this one was a 3 apples Swedish dishcloth from Swede Dishcloths. So I've gotten one of these in a previous yarn bag from, I believe it was from So Happy Jane at the time. And I honestly only recently started using the other one because I was a little bit nervous. It's biodegradable and it's made from, it says 70% wood pulp and 30% cotton. It's compostable, reusable, all of that. And there was just that part of me that's like, okay, but if it's compostable and biodegradable, it's just going to like break. It's like less like using a dishcloth or a sponge and a lot more like using a paper towel, right? But I did finally start using the other one, and so far I like it. And it's nice that I like it because now I have a spare for when that one is dying or if I just decide I want another one. I don't know if I'm going to be like a convert where I'm always buying them or if I'm just going to hope I get them in more bags and yarn things like this. Because, I mean, I have gotten 2 of them. And then the last thing I got was an apple bag clip set. So, just little chip clips can be used for anything. I was not looking for more, but these are super cute and we will definitely use them for things. So those will be going down into my kitchen soon. And of course, the last part is the yarn. I did really like this. I'm not always a fan of red, but I really like the way they did the red with the brown. That gives you kind of that, just enough to think of the stem. And honestly, I think the only reason this wasn't what I wound up on Thursday night was just because I knew I was filming and I didn't quite want to have it already wound up. But I am even thinking that I may combine this with a past Yarnable. This was from probably, okay, it says November 2023 on this one. And that month was Sinful Delight. And all I could think is, how good would these be as apple cinnamon socks? Like, do the ribbing heels and toes with the cinnamon and then the red, and then that would just look so cute. It's not a definite I'm going to do that, especially since, as I said, I have one pair of socks already going and at least one other one that I'm thinking about. And then I am getting ready to start my next pair of socks for my daughter and I's Broadway play set. So I'm getting ready to start 2 pairs of socks for Beetlejuice. We will see how long I can continue to do these 2 pairs of socks for Broadway plays. I'm really glad I got started early because the first play is towards the end of November. Beetlejuice is not until December, so I'm still way ahead. But I'm only on my second play and it's already like, oh man, this was a big commitment. What was I thinking? So it's definitely good that I started early so I have time to sprinkle in these other projects around it. But that was all the acquisitions that I had for this time, just the one, so I am guessing other stuff will be sprinkling in over the next week or so. I'm trying not to pre-order too many things, but I do have a couple of Halloween pre-orders coming in, and then I do have 2 other monthly yarn clubs that normally come in. One, I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to keep doing, but it's one that every month I'm like, all right, maybe this will be the last month I do it. We'll give it one more month. And I've been one more monthing it for like 4 months now. So we'll see how much longer I one more month it before I no more months it. And then that is all the yarn stuff I have. Life stuff is not a ton. One really exciting thing is I did get a new car last week. We had been looking for like a year and a half and finally went out and bought a new car. I have a Kia Sportage now. I had been driving my van for 8-ish years, and I love my van, but my van is not really well equipped for snow and ice, and I am not the world's most confident driver on snow and ice, so having a car that is a little bit more designed to help me with that, it just seemed like a good safety idea. And getting a newer car, there's all sorts of bells and whistles and cameras everywhere, and I had kind of that like, I do really want it, but also like, I don't know if I do, and I'm really happy that I have this new car so far. I've only had it for a week, but I am loving it. I did, of course, work as usual, so that takes up a huge chunk of my time. What else did we do over the last 2 weeks? Man, I mean, it felt like we were doing so much, but at the same time, I don't think we were really doing that much. After we got the new car, we did have a day where we went out and did some errands. Oh, and I did go and see Beetlejuice with my daughter. I knew there was something else I did in that day because it was kind of a busy day. I really enjoyed it, and it was fun to be able to go out just with my teenager and hang out, just the 2 of us. Obviously not the tiny one. We just assumed it would be a little bit too scary for her, and so my husband stayed home with her, and me and my teenager went out. We had a great time and enjoyed the movie. And then I had just some chill downtime at home to work on some projects, which I was very glad to do. I feel like I'm starting to hit that almost like creative burnout, but not like, it's a weird kind, maybe more of a creative overload, where I have so many different things that I want to do again that I'm starting to get that like, well, I can't figure out what I want to do, and it gets harder and harder to pick what I'm going to work on, and I'm not totally satisfied with anything I'm working on. So I feel like it's kind of a 50-50 between a burnout and an overload, because I am way overloaded by how much I want to work on, but also somehow burnt out on trying to get through some of the things I'm already working on. And so I'm trying to do a little bit of, follow your bliss, work only on what makes you happy, which is part of why I have an abandoned project. I don't have abandoned projects very often. I usually do just power through. But also, when you just follow your bliss, you get a lot of starting projects that you don't have time to finish. Because there are several projects that I would love to start, but I don't know when I would work on them or when I would finish them. So then I end up with a whole bunch of projects that are just sitting around. I mean, I do have a project that I have literally not touched in a year, and I'm starting to wonder if I'm ever going to finish it. And I kind of want to, but also, if I want to, why have I not come back to it? And I start having issues like that. So I'm trying to kind of work through some of that. But working through, I want to do more than I have time to do is not always the easiest thing. So that was a long ramble about some of my creative projects without actually saying a lot. I'm not sure if my filming schedule is going to be the same over the next several weeks. I do have a little bit of a busy schedule for October and November. I am going to be doing 2 different conferences for work. One will be from a virtual conference that I can do at home. Another one I will be traveling to the Portland area to go to that conference for a couple of days. I will also be hopefully being able to visit with my brother. My in-laws have talked about coming out here. But so far we do not have exact dates for visiting with people. So I'm going to try to make sure that I don't go longer than a week or 2 in between filming. But if I do, I am really sorry, and I will try not to be gone for very long. I hope to keep mostly on schedule, but again, if I know that I'm not going to be on schedule, I will try to do like 2 weeks in a row versus 3 weeks without anything. And I may try to film some other episodes so that it's not content emptiness. But whether we see each other regularly or not over the next couple of months, I hope you have a very, very happy making.